Government, who is really they take the role of enabling these partnerships to foster. So we're kind of like in the business of bringing all of these sectors together. Okay, so these are our main reform agenda. We make sure that the training for future teachers is relevant. So at the end of the day, your education system is only as good as the quality of your teachers, right? We were at this conference and we had a speaker who's a regular speaker for Google, and he asked the speaker asked the vice president of Google, okay, you work in technology, will technology replace teachers in the future? And categorically, the vice president of Google, even if he represents the technology sector, said no. And so we really think that focusing on teachers and getting industry and government and academia together to improve this is very important. The next agenda, reform agenda that we're focusing on is basic education. So at the end of the day, as what Tony was saying earlier, if you intervene at 16, 18, it's too late, right? You need to make sure that the core competencies of your youth are very strong, and so that they could learn and they could be in this environment where they could learn constantly and consistently as they grow older. And then we're in higher education reform, which our focus here is really getting schools, companies, and government to work together to improve skills and training in the country. So in this slide, it basically says that we don't do a lot of outreach projects. What we do is get people at the table, get them to talk, and then push for very concrete policy recommendations. So just to focus on higher education and skills, because that's the topic of this seminar. What we're doing can be summarized into these three phrases. We're in the business of involving industry. If we want to use the terminology used earlier, we're in the business of embedding industry in the training process. We want to improve market information. If you want to address the expectation problem or the mismatch, or what the other participants said earlier about difference in paradigm, you want to address the information asymmetry that's happening, right? What's out there, and what should the youth expect? What should employers expect? What should educators expect? And then improving education governance. How do you make sure and how do you foster all of these partnerships? How do you make sure that as you get people at the table, the dialogue is constructive rather than destructive? And so let me now share with you some of our activities under these themes. So what we really see here in this photo is a bridge, right? If you don't know and if you've never been to the Philippines is an archipelago. We are composed of 7,107 islands. We're very regional, and it actually shows in the way our organizations work. So while it's very natural, or it should be natural, for schools, companies, and government to partner for improved human capital, it seems like there's a lot of disconnects. And so what we really see here is we see our role as the bridge builders and our projects as bridges. Earlier, it was discussed that the reason why it's difficult for industry, academia, and government to partner is because they speak different languages, right? So for example, in training in the Philippines, when you talk about on-the-job training, the academia sees it as kind of like a checklist wherein you wherein they want to comply with the Ministry of Education's standards. In terms of, and that's the language that they speak, the curriculum that is being put forward by the Ministry of Education. For industry, the language that they speak is really skills and competencies. What can the person do? And for the government, it's just a matter of regulating everything. So instead of enabling, you disable by being too regulatory. And so what we really see here is, the opportunity to kind of like bridge all of these disconnects by speaking one common language, and that is the language of partnership. And so, in terms of involving industry, it's very difficult to get industry to participate in curriculum development. Because that's what they say, right? When it comes to making education more responsive, the things that you teach in schools should be developed jointly with industry. And yet, industry is busy. Why would they want to actually participate in the development of curriculum? And plus, as I said, they speak a different language, right? And so what we did was we got different representatives from key sectors, employment sectors in the country, and we sat them down and we asked them to identify what are the competencies required or expected of an entry-level fresh graduate for your sector in the next 5-10 years. And they actually gave their inputs, but the key here is translating, again, bridging what they said into something that the academia understands that's translatable to the curriculum, and something that will benefit at the end of the day the students and make their education more responsive to industry needs. So at the end of the day, we were able to get industry representatives to comment on business administration, information technology, hotel, restaurant management, and electronics engineering curriculums. Because like in Vietnam, our key industries also for the future are tourism, construction, and IT. So, and we think, and because of this initiative, we estimate that around 1 million students at the end of 5 years will have relevant industry relevant education. And at the end of the day, that's your outcome, right? Kids who are able to find jobs, who are employable because they have the right skills. And plus, I have the misfortune of speaking first, so people are still kind of digesting their food. I hope you don't fall asleep. I try to inject as much energy, but it's very hot. Anyway, in terms of improving market, let me just go back to that slide. And then, how do we then relate that input to the curriculum to much quality assurance? So at the end of the day, who measures whether you're effective or not? Earlier we were talking about buzzwords like evidence, outcomes. So what are the numbers that we should look at? And we think that employers and involving industry in the way we identify what's important is essential and is crucial, because at the end of the day, they're the employers, right? And so we're also now in the process of developing industry skills councils that will allow for industry to first identify standards, competency standards. What should the kids be learning in school? And then develop assessment tools. How do we make sure, how can we measure all of these competencies? Formal versus the things that they learn in the workplace. And quality assurance. How do we make sure that the system is consistent in churning out employable, highly skilled individuals? Another problem that we have in the Philippines, as I said earlier, is actually expectations. And this is in terms of access and relevance. Access in terms of information is really in terms of the quality of the education that is being taught in schools. And access in terms of what are the jobs that are out there. So a lot of, in the mid-2000s, and I was talking earlier with Dr. Naji, he was saying that in the UAE there are a lot of nurses. And this is because in the mid-2000s, there was an influx of, like almost maybe 80% of high school students took up nursing in college or in university. And because they thought that there was opportunity there and there will be jobs at the end of the day. But then while some were lucky to go to the UAE or other countries to work, a lot of these nurses, registered, certified nurses, could not find a nursing job. At the end of the day, they became agents in business process outsourcing firms. So they went through all that education, right, for, I don't know, something that's not relevant to what they studied. So it's such a shame, and they invest so much. In the Philippines, higher education is not free. It's very expensive. Even state schools, on average, have around, I'm not so sure how the conversion goes, but maybe on average $200 per semester. I know that's not a lot relative to other countries, right? But in the Philippines, that's quite a lot per unit. So, and per semester, you have around 30 units. So it's very expensive. So you go through all that education, you invest, and yet your return is not assured. So it seems like education in the Philippines is such a vague good, right? You don't really know what you get after. So what did we do? We're trying now to address the problem of information asymmetry. How do we make sure that kids in their choice of the future are guided by information on what are the hot jobs? What are the right skills that they should have and develop so that they're employable after the 4-year runway of higher education? And what sort of training do they need to get to those jobs? And so this is a project that we just recently launched. It's called futureu.ph, and it's a 1-minute video for me to cool down and also for you to see what's happening. So let me just show the video.
Are you unsure of what you want to be in the future? Do you need information on what jobs are out there after graduation? Introducing futureu.ph, the country's most comprehensive source of up-to-date and reliable information that can help you plan and create your future. Futureu.ph is an online career exploration tool that lets you search which jobs are hot in the market, plus information on the courses and colleges that can give you an edge. With futureu.ph, you can explore profiles of jobs and industries, job tasks, salaries, and more. You can also gain access to valuable information that tells you which course or school is most ideal, so you can land your desired job. Discover the missing link that bridges the information gaps between the right course, the best school for that course, and your ideal job. Making that choice no longer has to be a guessing game. It's time you took charge of your future by making informed decisions. Link up to futureu.ph today, the missing link to your future.
Okay, sorry about the lag. It seemed like it was in slow motion. It's not supposed to be that. But so let me just take off on that one of the information given there. It's being funded by the United States Agency for International Development, and one of the information set that we really try to get is the salaries. As what was being discussed earlier, a lot of these kids go through higher education or school, and then they go to the company, and they expect to already afford a Rolls Royce or luxury cars. So what really will allow for you to earn as much as possible after schooling. And in the Philippines, I don't know about in your country, but in the Philippines, there's a premium for a bachelor's degree. Regardless of whether it will make you more employable or not, what your parents want is that diploma on the wall. And yet, it's not really grounded on information on salaries. So what we're finding out now is, in fact, you can earn more in the Philippines if you go through technical education rather than getting a bachelor's degree, but not a lot of people know that. So with this tool, we hope to address that image of a low-paying, dirty job for technical education. And here, this is really kind of something that will tie everything up, right? We want to make sure that all of these partnerships are sustainable and scalable. It's not just something that will only last until the end of the project. So we made it a point to make sure that we institutionalize all of these partnerships through formal agreements and getting government to sign on to this, regardless of the political cycles in their environment. So what did we do? This will be just a warning. This will be a bunch of pictures of people sitting around tables. But so here in this photo, we have the CEOs of the top 2 companies in the Philippines. We have the Ayala Group and the FINMA Group. And here, what's important, and then the president of one of the, I'm biased because I came from that university, but one of the best universities in the country. And what's important here is actually to address the policy requirements of getting industry, academia, and government to work together. At the end of the day, you need to have the buy-in of your top decision makers so that you get things done. Because you can do all of these small projects, but then at the end of the day, you're like, oh, let me go back, ask my boss to see if we should continue this, right? So it's better to already have your bosses say, we are for this, we are for human capital development, and this is how we should go. And this is the goal of the National Industry Academe Council. Give that venue for high-level decision makers to buy into the idea of skills training and improving human capital in the country. Here we are, our initiative here is to unify higher education in the country, in the Philippines. As I said, I was telling Dr. Naji earlier, we have 1,900 higher education institutions. Quite a lot for a school population or a college population of around 2 to 3 million. And the thing is, we have local, and our higher education is patterned after the US model, wherein you have private universities, you have state universities, and you have community colleges or local colleges and universities. And they compete for students because they compete for funding, they compete for money. At the end of the day, instead of the partnerships working, you now have one of the partners fighting amongst themselves. And so how can you have a tenable government, industry, academe partnership if the academe is like, I don't know, this very dispersed group that you don't know who to talk to? So part of the strategy is to make sure that each of the partners is strong enough to be in that relationship. So speaking of relationships, my best friend just got engaged today, this afternoon, on my way to this hall, and she texted me her engagement ring. And then it got me to thinking, right? In terms of relationships, you have to go into them on equal footing. You cannot be the weaker one and then the stronger one for it to work, right? So in this case, it's kind of like the philosophy behind this, making the academic institutions complement each other, work together in order for the sector as a whole to push for certain changes. And then the tendency for private institutions is to kind of just do things on our own, right? Not engage government, because at the end of the day, they're kind of like the bad guys. They're gonna regulate you, and but we have been seeing the importance of partnering with education agencies. So you have the secretary for the Department of Education there, and it's very important for your programs to gain traction and for your programs to have scalability. It's not just enough to have pilot programs and address pockets of the problem, but address the problem as a whole. And then from the national, we bring it to the local levels. In the Philippines, we are very decentralized, and it's very important for us to make sure that everyone gets involved. It's not just in Metro Manila where you have all the people there and only address the problems of people there. We want to make sure that all of the provinces, all of the cities are involved and bring and localize all of these partnerships in the regional level. And then the way we see development in the Philippines, at least, is we always see it from the point of view of infrastructure, or institutions, but we never factor in our investment plans the human resource component to these plans. And so part of our work is to really mainstream that, and especially at the local level. When one of our provinces, for example, say that tourism is now their focus, we want to make sure that in the tourism plan, there's a very concrete and important human resource component to it. And so what have we learned the past 8 years of working in PBED, right? We think that it's very important. The first step is to get everyone at the table. It's very difficult to talk about projects and partnerships when your partner isn't even there. And then, at the end of the day, though, talk is cheap and you can't really get things done if you don't have initial funding. So you want to make sure that you have the buy-in so that you have the initial support to scale up your projects. And then, after you have initial funding and you prove that it's successful, it's important to tell your story. Because a lot of industry, and when we talk to them and we represent them and we ask our members, why are you not partnering with academic institutions? Because there are no evidence of these partnerships to affecting their bottom lines. So you wanna make sure that success stories are told and the bottom line problem is addressed. And then given that, and you've reflected and you've shared your story, how do you make sure that the dialogue remains constant? And so you go just round and round the circle and this cycle and make sure that you create something that is relevant, inclusive, and important for everyone and all stakeholders. So that's it. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good afternoon.
Well, thank you, Ms. Basilote. I think we have a very interesting presentation, and what I learned from this interesting presentation is, the foundation and also the partnering between the three parties in education. And another thing which I think is very important, especially for Vietnam, is the samples of how they provide information to the market. For example, the website that we have seen, which I don't see it available in Vietnam or elsewhere in other countries that I've been visiting. So that is one point that we later will talk about. Now I would like to give the floor to Dr. Ahmadi, so from Dubai. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I turn this? How many of you here have studied for what they are doing today? If you have studied at university for what you are doing today, put your hand up, please. You see, it's very interesting how this fallacy about preparing people for individual job is actually a false. This is a false concept. It's not a real concept. You will find loads, the majority of people in the room here, there were only 5 or 6 who they trained for their job. But the majority of people, they don't actually train for the job they are doing, or they did not study for it. Later on, life is full of windows of opportunities. And these windows of opportunities, they take you there not because of what you studied, but it's because of all the transferable skills that you have. So the key thing is, what transferable skills do we give to people, rather than what individual compartmentalized skills that we give them. Which university in the world can guess what is going to happen in 4 years' time when the students graduate? It cannot be, it cannot happen. And which university in the world they are going to say, in 2020, we are going to use so many workers here, and so many workers here, and so many workers here. It's not possible. So let's not chase dreams that cannot be fulfilled, because this will always be the game. Education blames industry, industry blames education, people, they blame the government, and everybody keeps throwing the same ball. I remember when I first went into the into the vocational education business, I was trained by a very distinguished German guy. And the advice that he gave me, he said, education only creates jobs for teachers. The economy creates jobs for everybody else. So the idea is to link to the economy rather than to think of what education can give, is what the economy can give. And this is particularly our problem in our part of the region. We have loads and loads of jobs, and the economy is given loads of jobs, but these jobs do not match the social aspiration of the people of the country. And therefore, yes, there are jobs, but there are not people to take them, because these people, they don't want them anyway, not because they were not prepared for them. So that was my first question. My second question is, what do you know about the triple helix? You are all here for a triple helix, so what is it? Who can tell me what it is? Yes, please?
I think it's about to have the government to put a policy for the education and training in every country.
Yes.
At the same time, I have the industry who's waiting for the outcomes of this policy to have. And in between, there is training providers, education providers who will work on this operation.
Okay. Isn't this the normal model everywhere? A triple helix is a concept that comes from chemistry and comes from the DNA concept. Basically, rather than having the three working aside from each other, is the three, they wrap around each other so that they form a helix. And that's why they call it the triple helix. There are molecules in chemistry, three different molecules, when they wrap around together, and they form a continuous thread rather than a broken thread. And this concept has been taken basically is for innovation purposes, because the problem is with educations, with university, traditionally there will be a professor at university and they will be offering research programs, and these research programs, they are to do only with their own skills, what they know. And they are mostly, in our countries, mostly related to publications, because they have to be promoted. And to be promoted, you need to publish. And then you need to publish in international journals. So what do? You are too busy doing research that is irrelevant to the people around you. And here, the triple helix approach is a method to capture this integration between what the university does, what education does, what industry does, and what the government wants. So it all has to start with the government knowing what they want anyway, because if you don't know what you want, anything you get will be fine. You see? So that's the whole idea. I will try to bulldoze through this presentation very quickly, okay? Because I agreed with my friend that we will only take half an hour between us. Now, since she took the half an hour, I only end up with 5 minutes. Okay. So, basically what I will do is try to give you the prospect. I'll try to give you examples, 2 different examples of this, how it actually works and how it's actually interpreted. So basically, this is the EGI, or Education Government Institution. It's a partnership for innovation. It's not just partnership just to do whatever we were doing yesterday, but it's to do something different than what we were doing yesterday. And this triple helix is a model that will guide the interaction between all the parties, and it's about collaboration between the 3 parties, not about the government regulating and everybody has to do. No, it has to go hand in hand. So this requires a lot of agility within industry and within the government. So regulations, they can change very quickly. It's not regulations are stationary and everybody has to revolve around them. Everything revolves around each other. So as the situation changes, the regulation change, and we go forward. So basically, it is like that. And basically, it's between government and education. There is funding, there are strategic needs. So the government has got to say, what do we want to be? This is not privatization. A lot of people, they think this is about a privatization. It's about, we have got industry belonging to the government, now we want to get rid of them, so we will privatize. This is not a privatization, this is more to do with collaboration than privatization. So, and what happens is, so from education and industry, you are getting new concepts and new products. They are coming together. And basically here what the government says, it says, this is the niche for us, okay? So if this is the niche for Vietnam, what is the niche for Vietnam? They produce rice, a lot of rice, okay. So how much do we sell rice for today? X dollars a kilo. Now, what we want to do, we want to increase the value added. Instead of selling it for X, we'll sell it for X plus 5. And what are we going to do? So it means we have to develop new varieties, things that is more in demand, things that is not flooding the market. So that's the idea, and to talk between them and the education together. And of course, industry, they will create employment, they will pay taxes, they will bring benefits, they will do a lot of things. So that's the whole idea, that's how it works. So there are a lot of benefits to the industry itself. The industry, they are actually working with something that they know the government wants and the government will support. Again, this is not about subsidies. It's not about the government is going to subsidize industry that is not doing so well, and they are just there to give people jobs. So the objectives here is not about giving people jobs. It's about getting innovation and about getting value addition. And there are loads and loads of benefits to educational institutions, because the educational institutions, they will not be viewed as just institutions. They are on the sideline. They are there because everybody has to go to school and because everybody has to go to college. So this is how much we pay them. And every time there is a problem in the budget, what happens? They cut their budget and they can't do anything more. So it's more about the education itself is renewing itself. So the DNA of education is being looked at in a different way. Education has got to pay for its keeps. And the way it pays for its keeps is by being involved with the industry. And of course, the government will create new industries, will create new ideas, will create new jobs, will create a lot of things. So it works all around for everybody. And I'm giving you two examples here. One example is about Abu Dhabi example. Because in Abu Dhabi, what they have got loads and loads of oil, but they know that the oil is going to peak and then it will disappear. And then what will happen afterwards? There will be nothing. So, but energy is the main driver of the economy today. So how to make it the main driver of the economy tomorrow? So what the government did, they embarked on an energy strategy. And that energy strategy has got a number of prongs in it. And one of the prongs is to go nuclear. And they are building huge nuclear plants in Abu Dhabi that are going to be operating within 3 to 4 years. And there is a lot of training is being done and training people to actually run them. And what will that do? Because people, they will say, you have got so much oil, why do you need the nuclear energy? It's because rather than consume the oil, they can export the oil and can use the nuclear energy inside. So this is one of the reasons. The other reason is when the oil finishes, then there is a sustainable energy. But there's something else they are looking at, is the renewable energy, which is solar energy. They say we have, okay, we want, as a government, we have aspiration, we want to have economy transition, we want to move from being a current resource economy to a knowledge economy. So what we are going to do, we are going to invest a lot of money in learning about the nuclear, in learning about a lot of things. So in the future, we can give it to somebody else. And they are focusing on things that are environmentally friendly, not environmentally bad. So in Abu Dhabi, basically, what they want to do, they want to reduce CO2 emission. Why? Because the country is small and they have got Emirates Airline, they have got Etihad Airlines, and they have got so much carbon in the air. So they want to reduce the footprint. But at the same time, they want to create new industries within this. Of course, Abu Dhabi has a huge desert, and this huge desert has plenty of sun, and it's very hot. So how can we use it? So in 2006, they created something called the Masdar Initiative. The Masdar, basically, Masdar means source. That's what it means. It means source, okay? And source is because the sun is the source of all energy. So they are using the sun, basically, as a source of the energy. And this Masdar has got a number of portfolio. One is to reduce CO2 emission. Two is to create a new energy, clean energy supplies, okay? And this is what they are supposed to do. So basically, the innovation in the solar energy industry, the government of Abu Dhabi is funding Masdar, and then from Masdar we are getting a new product and concept that goes to Abu Dhabi industry, and Abu Dhabi industry, they employ people, and there is general benefits to the economy. So that's the whole thing. So I'm sure if you go to Masdar website, you will find a lot about it, okay? So Masdar, basically, the vision is to make Abu Dhabi prominent source of renewable energy. So when you are looking at this triple helix approach, you are having big ambition for the future, and you are collaborating with everybody to do it. And their mission is to advance renewable energy, sustainable technologies, and so on. This is what they want to do. So, but their objective at the same time is not to do it for free, not to do it with a lot of subsidies. The government is putting seed money, but then they want to be profitable, because if they are not profitable, it will become another white elephant. So you don't want that, okay? And they want to build reputation for Abu Dhabi around the world. And they want to foster development of diversified knowledge economy. And they want to reduce the carbon footprint of Abu Dhabi. So how do they work? They play the role of the first mover. So this is the way they do it. So they are the people that come with the first ideas, the first thoughts. And this is like a domino thing, where when they start initiating things, hopefully they can demonstrate it, and then the industry can follow them. And Masdar has got a lot of landmark projects already. What they have done, they have built a 10 megawatt solar photovoltaic plant. And this solar photovoltaic plant, it generates energy. They are already putting 10 kilowatt beam down pilot has been built, and it's already on the grid itself. They have 100 megawatt solar concentrated power plant. So they have got a number of plants that they have already done as part of this triple helix where they go together. And Masdar has already developed one of the largest field studies of solar panels. So they contacted 22 different manufacturers over 18 months, and they made a comprehensive study about them. And there is a Masdar Institute, and the Masdar Institute basically is the source for all the research that they do. Okay? So there are institutional challenges for them. It's not all very easy. One of the problems with solar energy is because, especially nowadays, I'm sure you have heard about how oil prices are going down and down. And they have come down from about $115 to, I think yesterday it was around $82, $83. So they have lost over 25% of the value. Of course, what this does for the energy market is countries that are producing shale oil, suddenly it becomes very expensive for them. They don't want to produce shale oil anymore because shale oil is very expensive, and in certain area it costs around about $75 just to get it out. By the time you put transportation, it goes up to $95. So it becomes non-profitable. The same thing goes with solar energy. So one of the problems with solar energy today is because the rest of the energy is so cheap. Okay? Solar energy does not have a future with the other energy being so cheap. The only way it can become viable is when the other energy becomes very, very expensive. So what they are hoping in 10, 15 years time, when there is less and less oil in the world, then it will be costing 200, 250 per barrel, and then it will become profitable to go the other side. So far, the government has only made 7% commitment to renewable energy. And there is a lot of pressure on the government to make a little bit more in order to make this successful. So this is basically one. Another one that we have, another example, is what we are doing in Dubai. And basically, this is another application for triple helix. is how we are working together about the skills. I already mentioned in the beginning that the problem with the skills is there are so many jobs in the Emirates, but there are so many locals that are out of jobs because the jobs, they do not match what is required. So again, what we have the National Qualification Authority. They identify strategic needs, and we have a partnership project between us, ProSkills, and the British Council. And what do we do? Basically, to come up with a new concepts, because this is employment concepts in the region is totally different from anywhere else in the world. What you have got very few nationals, but they are all out of job. And 90% of the labor force comes from overseas. And the nationals, they cannot compete with the skills or with the salaries that people are coming from outside. So how do we go around it? And that's the whole partnership, is to come up with new ways of developing skills for the region. So basically, you come up with something that will fit you rather than we come up with a model that fits somebody else. And that's the problem with taking models from other people, is that it fits them, but it may not fit you. So you have got to find out what is going to fit your country rather than take somebody else's model that will fit them. And we have been working with the ProSkills. As a start, we are starting with the logistic industry, because this is a very challenging industry, the logistic industry. And the way we are looking at it, we are looking at, rather than say, we want to put all our nationals into the logistic industry, no. We are trying to identify what are the jobs in the logistic industry that meet the aspiration of the local people. So that's the first question, because just like the engagement in there, it has to be the two, they have got to fit each other. So basically we are starting with identifying what are the jobs that will meet the aspiration of our young people. And the next thing is, what development do we require for our young people to make them suitable for these jobs? So that's the way it works. Not we are going to train people and industry have got to take them anyway. It has got to be the other way around. Find out, but then the focus is on specific jobs, niche jobs. Not every job in there, because some jobs they will not be able to do. Some jobs it may pay very well, but requires a lot of experience. And education cannot give you the experience. It can give you the basic knowledge and basic understanding and basic skills. But experience, you need to get it on the job rather than just off the job. And of course, this employability skills, we are trying to address the challenges of globalization. And the reason we say globalization is because our labor market is open to every nationality in the world. There are over 183 different nationalities working in Dubai. And in the logistics sectors, there are all sorts of nationalities. So it's the skill market for us is a global market and not just a small market, okay? And to establish industry-driven curriculum. So the industry, they will drive the curriculum. But I think for you, from education, whenever you go to industry, everybody says, let's talk to the industry. Who do you talk to in the industry? You talk to the CEO. A lot of the time, the CEO may have a business background, and they really know how to drive the business. They may not know the niche jobs in this. Do you talk to HR? HR, they only process. They don't actually know. So who do you talk to when you talk to people in industry? When you talk to people in industry, you have got to target the people that you want to talk to. So if you are talking to the hospitality industry and you want to train chefs, go and talk to the chefs. Don't talk to the HR. They wouldn't know anything about it. So you really have got to talk at the operational level, because there they know what the skills that they want. At the higher level, they always talk to you about generic skills. They say, oh, we need the problem solving, we need them to think, we need that, we need this. Okay, so they can problem solve, they can do all of this, and they go to the kitchen and they cannot cook a meal. So what do you do with them? Okay, so you need to talk to both. You need to understand the overall picture, but also understand the operational aspect of it. And this is what we do. We go and meet operational people, and we ask, What is involved in that job? What sort of profile of a person that is going to work in that job? Will you be accepting a local if they come to you and they do this job? So we ask all of the questions and identify what skills, what rewards, okay, and how long it will take them to be, okay, to be trained. So basically the partnership, it provides a common platform for us. And we are hoping what we are doing with the logistics skill is something that we can migrate to another sector. And we can look at different sectors. We look at the oil and gas sector. We look at the retail sector. We look at the hospitality sector. Hospitality is the largest, is the sector with the largest growth in Dubai. Over the next 5 years, we are going to have over 65 stars hotel in Dubai. Yes, so 65 stars hotel. How do you bring the manpower for them? How do you ensure that you will get consistent standard of hospitality in a very short, the markets where we naturally recruit from, we normally go to Switzerland to recruit. The market has been a drain. You can't find the people that you want even in Switzerland because they are grabbed by China. They are grabbed by India because this is where a lot of growth is there. So we have to find ways of how to maintain our standard, remain competitive, and compete in the global market for the type of skills that we want. We have similar challenges with the financial sector, where the financial sector now is getting better health, and there is more opportunities for them, and the type of people that we need in that part of the world is becoming harder and harder and harder to recruit. So it means we are looking for more and more and more homegrown talent, rather than just international talent. So basically, I try to give you a glimpse of what we do in both. I'm trying not to take the time of my other colleague and take more than another 1 minute. So basically, you can go through my presentation, and if you wish to ask any questions, please, we'll be here afterwards. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Although it's a bit long, but I think it's very fruitful. We all learned a lot, the lessons that we learned from the government of Abu Dhabi and Dubai. I think it can be adoptable to our countries as well. The next presenter will be Mr. Thang, Phu Chi Thang from AFP College of Vietnam. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much for the first two speakers. So I have only a few seconds to say hello to you. Hello. Okay. All right. So I try to make it quick. Okay. Okay. There's few information about me. I got a master's degree from the United in economics from the University of Missouri. And then I was a former consultant at the World Bank Group in Washington, D.C., the head office. Right now, I'm the director of FPT Polytechnic Hanoi. The FPT Polytechnics, we have 6 campuses, and Hanoi is the biggest one, which has about 70 faculties, staffs, and about 2,500 students. And we have total about 8,000 students across the country, okay? I have 3 parts. The first one is the introduction about FPT Polytechnic. The second one is our values. And the third one is our suggestion for cheaper helix. What we think each partner in the group should do. So my staff made the PowerPoint for me. I don't like it so far because a lot of wordings. So it's good because if you can understand me, you can look at the slide, okay? Our mission, we try to match the student learning abilities because a lot of good students now go to the university. So the average and not very good student, where they go. So, we cannot blame for them. So we are the place for the average. And not very good student to come to study. We try to satisfy the demand of the enterprises and company. We try to meet the demand. And the third one, we try to standardize in the international base our program, our curriculum, so that our students, even they don't have a good chance in comparison to students in the university, but they have the advantage of get the most up-to-date curriculum and ready to go to the labor market. Okay. We focus on the employability of graduates. We think that the student must have the three things. The first one is the IT skill. The second one is soft skill like presenting, communicating, or working in groups. And the third one, of course, English. We want our students not only working in Vietnam, but can work around Asia. Because, in 2015, Asia is like an open place. So students can move to one place to another place, okay? And we actively create the opportunities for our students to do an internship, a part-time job, a full-time job, right after, during their study at the school. So we have a placement office who connect the industry enterprises with our students. And also we get the feedback from the company and enterprises where they get feedback about our students, about our curriculum, so we can update more practical issues in our program. Okay, our value. We was founded about more than 3 years ago, very brand new. But we focus on the quality at the beginning. So we focus on the ISO standard in our management system. We focus on the curriculum and textbook. You know that we have all the licensed textbook from the famous publishers like McGraw-Hill, Starware, Wiley. So we have the license to get their textbook and curriculum, all the stuff materials, and we can translate into Vietnamese. So our students at the beginning, when they don't have a good English, they can study. And after that, when they upgrade their English, they can be advanced to the next level. Okay, students can do the two parts in the program. The first one is the basic one. And the basic is for all the field of study. So students know what to do next. They can choose the right path for them, where they have a passion, a good ability, and also the market need. So it's a combination between the ability, the market needed, and the passion. So with that combination, I believe that our students will success. We apply very new methods of learning. It's the project-based training. It's like similar like working environment. So we give the project to our students at the beginning of a semester. So for each subject they study, they can partly solve the issue in the project. So it's similar to working environment. So a 2.5 year studying in our program is similar to a 2.5 year working experience. So when a student graduates, they apply and the enterprises ask, do you have any experience? And most of students say, I don't have any. So that's why I'm here. So our student will have at least 2.5 year experience. We use very modern methods of learning. It's blended learnings. It's a combination of face-to-face and e-learning. So you know that about 5 years ago, e-learning was a prominent one. But students, when study e-learning, they don't have a good orientation. So they just go on the internet, study, and don't know what it's for. So blended learning is a very good kind of learning, methods of learning, so that students know what to do. And we create in the constructivism way. So the teacher is like the motivator and create a good passion for students, and students can do the right thing for them. We belong to FPT Corporation, the biggest IT corporation in Vietnam. FPT has about 17,000 employees, and we have a lot of branches and offices all around the world. And we want to go mass, so most students can come to study, so there's no entrance exam. We can open a small center around Vietnam, and maybe next year we will have a campus in Myanmar. So right now we have 6 campuses, and we try to connect our students with enterprises so that students have a lot of opportunity during their study, and right after graduate they have a good one in mind, and they will go to there and go and work. Okay. So here's our suggestion. Of course, the triple linkage is a combination of academia, industry, government. We try to make innovation. So from our aspect, I think FPT Polytechnic can provide the good courses for industry. The industry could a good place for us to practice, for our students to practice, for all the academic centers to send their students for practice and get feedback from the real labor market needed, the thing that students can update. And also the government. I think government have a lot of works to do, so I don't know why. 2 slides. Okay, this one is a very good example where the government can create a good seminar like this, where we can meet, train. So I bring a lot of my business card, and you can train for me after that. Okay. So the communication between school and industry is very important. We want the curriculum can be standardized. So the government will standardize the field of study for school, at least in the Asian. Okay. And all right. So thank you. I'm done.
Well, thank you very much. Actually, the last presentation is shorter than we expected. So thank you, Dr. Tang. Okay, maybe we will start with a few questions to all our speakers. Okay, I want to start like this. So the 3 speakers will present different parts in the triple helix. So I would like to discuss with you about your thinking about the roles of the others. That maybe would help us to go into details of the requirements. So first of all, I think the government's role is very important, and different speakers will have different perspectives about the roles of the speakers. But I would like to hear from the industry's point of view, what the government do you think that can help you to formalize what you are introducing to the education in the Philippines? So, Basilote, can you give your idea about that?
Thanks for the question. So from the point of view of industry, it really depends on what sort of mismatch or gap that we're trying to bridge, right? In terms of training and skills, we think that the role of industry should be that of a facilitator, enabler, rather than constricting the system and kind of like dictating what should be the jobs. Not the jobs, what should be the courses that the schools offer, what should be the type of curriculum that needs to be taught to the students. The role of the government should be that of an entity that will allow for different types of learning, different types of contextual training and skills development. In terms of innovation and research, which the two of my colleagues spoke about earlier, it's really that of, I liked what Dr. Naji was saying, government as the first mover. In the Philippines, the government investment on research and development is less than 1%. The global standard is more than 3%. And if you think of triple helix and talking about partnerships, and you've never seen it work in your country ever, what makes you think that industry, who is averse to risk, will want to invest? In terms of education, I mean, they're just in the business of training people, and then developing more knowledge. So in terms of the role of government, it should really be, as a first mover, like what Dr. Naji was saying, and kind of like giving the initial funding and then showing that this partnership works.
Okay, Mr. Tang, I would like to hear from your point of view. You've been presenting before that what you need from the government is something like a standardized curriculums for the schools in general. But I wonder, the requirements from the industries would be very different from one to the other. So how do you cope with this kind of difficulties? Because companies can have different requirements, right? So what is your actually point of view about the roles of the government?
Yes. Okay. That company have a lot of requirements and different ones. So we focus on the most basic requirement from small enterprises. For example, each enterprise need only one accountant, so we have accounting. Okay, so for every enterprise, they need a person who can manage a website and do some IT. So we have the web design and IT apply. Okay, and for if you want the company want to be asset in the market, so they need a person to promote the company, so we have the marketing and sale. So and also we focus on a very needed labor in the market. Right now, is the time for smart, like social, mobility, analytics, cloud, right? So we have the field to train students to program on the mobile devices. So with the very basic needs for the industry, I think we try to focus on the mass thing of the market, not on the only one specific thing of some specific company. So that's what we are doing.
Okay. Very interesting. So based on the answer from Mr. Tang, I think there would be a very interesting topic here raising that, how's the involvement actually from the industry? Because you are talking about, you're guessing the common needs from different companies, but actually because I'm involved in in vocational training as well, I know that the requirements from different companies are very much different, and one of the problems for us as employers, it's difficult for us to employ those university-trained students or college-trained students, because there are a bunch of skills that we need. They are not actually trained in the school. So the question is, from the industry point of view, or from the government point of view, Doctor, how do you think the industries can help you? Because in your presentation, I think that the government is very active in introducing the programs, what the children need to learn. But actually, from the industry point of view, do you think that the industries should involve more in helping you as a government agency to develop the curriculums?
Yes. I think the primary let's say, aspiration of government is, one, is to see that its people are in employment. And obviously the government cannot employ everybody, because when they do, it will become very bureaucratic and nothing gets done. And if the governments own the industry, it's even a greater problem, because show me one government-owned airline in the world that actually makes money, or any industry in the world that is owned by government that can make money. Because then the objectives, they are mutated. Instead of the objective is to bring prosperity, the objective is just to give people jobs at the lowest level of income. So from our point of view as government, our role is to facilitate, our role is to regulate, our role is to hold people accountable. What we want to do, I mean, if you take, for instance, Emirates Airline as an example. Although Emirates Airline is owned by government, but it runs as a private sector company. The government gave it seed money to start it, and then they left it to its own ways. They left it to its private sector way of doing things. So it can go, it can borrow money, it can do all the things that normal businesses do. At the end, the ownership goes to the government, but it operates as a truly private industry. And what we expect from it, we expect it to give decent jobs to people. We expect it to give good conditions to people when they work. We expect it to spend money on developing the people that are working for it, and not to expect everything to be done by government for them, but we expect them to take the lead. This is why somebody like Emirates Airline, they have got their own Emirates Aviation University. They started it their own, and they recruit their own people through their own universities, and they develop them. But they also have loads of programs to take people from the national universities. As government, we also believe that universities, they should not be given money to spend. Instead, individuals should be given money to spend. And it's up to the individual to choose the university that is good for them. And therefore, when you are a university that is not putting your students into jobs, or not providing them with the highest level, people, they don't want to go there. Just the same as a private hospital. We have an example about the healthcare. If you have 3 hospitals sitting beside each other, and one of them says, I will treat you and I will give you some money. And the second one says, I will treat you for free. And the third one says, I will treat you, but you have got to pay me. Which one will have the longest queue in front of it? It will be the last one. It's people, they would rather pay for it because they believe it will give them value. And this is the type of thinking that we have. We say if people, they don't pay for things, they don't appreciate their value, and the industry does not become accountable to anybody. The only accountability is to themselves. So this is what we expect from industry: accountability, good jobs, and development for their own people.
Yeah, thank you, Doctor. Mr. Tang, I know that your college is invested by a private company, FPT. So how do you see the importance of the private sectors as investors in education in general?
So, in my opinion, private sector, who they want to invest in education, of course, first one for money, okay? And the second one is the needed from their own organization. You know that FPT need about 3,000 to 4,000 employees every year. So we in needed of a high quality student, graduated student. And also we see a very good spot in the market for our student where they can get a good job after graduate. So, and also we want to bring a good value to our societies. So that's the way that encourage a private company like FPT to invest in education.
Yeah, thank you. But like in the Philippines case, it's almost non-profit, right? And you are doing that because you think that you're doing good things for both the society and the industries in the future, right? So how do you encourage your the companies, the enterprises in the Philippines to involve in this kind of process?
Yeah, I think we have to separate the advocacy part and then the real training part. So in terms of the advocacy the group that I represent, we are non-profit. So the fact that how we encourage our industry members to participate is actually come up with a very good and strategic idea that they buy into. And this is really in terms of improving human capital. So from that idea, how do we then make them interested in training and improving the skills capacity of Filipinos is actually you hit it in two ways. First is bottom line. And their bottom line is profit. It's not just about doing good and being nice. At the end of the day, they know that if they don't invest in training, if they don't participate in improving human capital, their businesses will not be competitive. And then the second one, of course, is corporate social responsibility, and that's why they provide scholarships and etc. to give back as a community. But in terms of getting industry to participate, it's really a matter of showing them that it works and it's going to positively affect their bottom line.
Okay, thank you very much. Now it's now time for your question. Yes, can you please?
Thank you. My name is Noman. I am from Pakistan. I'm from part of Pakistan. We have 5 provinces of Pakistan. I'm from the northwest frontier province known as Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which is close to Afghanistan and tribal area. And I'm an industrialist. I own a steel mill over there. We employ about 1,100 people. We make steel. So I'm sort of an industrialist as well. But I'm also the chairman of the technical education of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa for that province. Dr. Raji, my question is probably to you as well and to others as well. You're right, there's no business of government to be in business. But in most of our countries, government does indulge into business activity which really spoils the whole show around. What we have, I'm hearing since morning that various systems, how do you involve the private sector industrialist into the TEVT system? I'm hearing this for the last quite many years, but I really never saw a very good model. What we have done, what I like to share and ask you, Dr. Raji, especially you and others as well. What we have done is that, yes, the government gives us seed money, but we have formed a board. The board constitutes of 20 people, 13 are from the private sector. And there's a private sector, I'm the chairman from the private sector. Now, the whole of the curriculum, the whole of the 73 institutes, the 22,000 students that we teach, the 3,000 staff that we have, are all guided by the private sector. Furthermore, what other we added to that was that we trained our training schools into training commercial institutes, where we actually do commercial activity as well, which we provide them free equipment, free electricity, and they make a product and sell it in the market. So the students get hands-on training into commercial activity, into they get experience to work on the floor as well as training. So this is sort of a thing that I think is that we started for the last 2-3 months. And what I would like to know is that do you think there's Dr. Naji and others, do you think there's any shortcoming, there is some pitfall, there's something wrong that we're doing? And finally, my last this thing is, I see people sitting from multinational companies and others. In Pakistan, 90% of the workforce are working in SMEs or micro and small medium enterprises. So their representation, their voice should always be well heard, and they are one who are really employing the workforce. But again, sir, my question is, the format that I talk of, isn't this a right format to follow for a successful TEVIT system? This is my question.
Okay, very good. Because we don't have a mic here, maybe Doctor, you... Okay. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much for this question. I think the real success that you can measure is how many of your graduates actually get employed at the end of the day and find jobs, okay, that will give them a good living. That's the whole point. When I was working for Yemen, I was doing a lot of work in Yemen, and they had something similar set up to what you did. And they said, yes, we have the industry, we have been training people all the time and so on, but the same problem happens. People, they still don't go to and get jobs. And the reason for it is a different reason altogether, because there are certain countries that are net exporters of workers. So sometimes it is also good to think, what will be the type of skill that I can give my people that can actually make them exportable, not just for the local market. Because getting people exportable may give them more value than to work in the local market. So when I was in the Yemen, I was asking them, have you ever considered what does the market in Saudi Arabia, what does the market in Qatar and the UAE wants your people to do or not? Because they keep focusing on their own market. Their own market is already saturated. The problem with Yemen, and I think in many other countries, the market is saturated. And when you train more and more people, it doesn't mean they are going to get a job in your own country. So you have also got to build in what opportunity can I provide them to go and get jobs somewhere else. And I think that will give you a very successful model. Thank you.
Thank you. One more question, please.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
My question is to the whole panel. Thank you very much for sharing your presentations. I like this triple helix model. What I see that there is too much focus on industry. I understand that, industry plays a very important role, but we must remember that industry follows only single bottom line, that is only to see the financial returns. I would love to see that if we can add to this model civil society institutions, because when we talk about the countries participating in this forum, we have a lot of problems. And if we, provide an opportunity to young people to just think about them, I think they can contribute in resolving all these problems. So how do you see that? Is there any need to do a shared value audit in our educational institutions?
The panelists, you want to answer? Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you. There is a role not only for industry, there is a role for everybody if they can contribute. But my experiences in different parts of the world, for example, I had experiences in Egypt, for instance, where you get a program or you get a project that is funded by some donor. And they work, and you will find they are doing a really good job. And then you come back a year later, and the whole thing has disappeared because the money has dried up. This is the problem, a lot of the time, the problem with these social, let's say, initiative. Unless you get a sustainable income for them to continue, otherwise they just become a flash in the pan. So you always need to focus on a sustainable income. I think sometimes, for instance, in Qatar, they started some social fund like this, but rather than give money to people, what they did, they gave them an apartment block. And they say, you rent it, and you take the money out of it, and you work with the money that you get out of that. You don't work with the seed money. And I know in a number of countries in the world, what they take the money that's being given, and they work with the interest on the money rather than work with the capital itself. So always protect the capital so as to make whatever activity you do sustainable.
Just to add, the triple helix, I don't think it does not allow for other partners to join in. In fact, what it's saying is, all major stakeholders partner, but then more partnerships will develop out of that. So you enrich the existing partnerships, and then you expand the reach of the partnerships. So for example, in the triple helix, what it says is each of the players goes beyond what is the traditional role of the player. So for example, if you're an educator, the expectation is you're not just there to teach, you're also there to be an entrepreneur and really actively seek out these partnerships and not hide behind the ivory towers of the academic institution. If you're industry, you don't just stick to your bottom line on profit, you actually see opportunities to partner so that while you address the issues of your bottom line, you also help society and make it improve as a whole. For government, you don't only see yourself as a regulator, but then how do you create all of these spaces for other partnerships to mushroom and prosper? So it's actually, with this triple helix model, it allows for greater space for partnerships and more players to become part of these partnerships. So to answer your question, it will just allow more partnerships to grow.
If I can just add to this a bit, if you look at some of the most successful American universities, they actually work with endowment money that have been given to them through the ages, through the years. And they are very powerful, very successful universities. They get a lot of money. A lot of this endowment money goes towards a scholarship for students and also for a new development, to buy new labs, to do a lot of things. I know in Malaysia there are a couple of universities that work on awqaf. And there are awqaf people who are their previous graduates. Before they die, they say part of their money that will go towards the university or towards a certain program. And you will find in the West, this is quite a successful model for sustaining that type of social work.
Well, I think I'm very sorry that we started a bit late, so the coffee is waiting over there, and we did not have enough time for further discussion. But don't worry, because we have the same session like this tomorrow morning. So I believe that we will have more time for further discussion tomorrow. I'm sorry about that. Let's sum up the discussion today. And obviously that we see the triple helix model is very important, but the important thing is, how can we identify the roles of each partners in this model? And like the panelists say, it's not just doing their job as regularly, but the important thing is that they can do interactive and supportive roles to each other. So thank you very much, the panelists. So hopefully you can have further discussion with the panelists at the coffee and enjoy the plenary session later on. Thank you.